If it isn't already clear from this channel, I really like art supplies. I have a fairly large collection of watercolors, pens, ink, paper, you name it, I probably have it. But what I also have is a fairly large collection of other art supplies. Markers, pencil crayons, obscure Faber-Castell products that may or may not still exist. I've got them all. So to start 2026, I thought we'd go over the other art supply stuff that I've managed to collect over the past couple years that I actually still use. Most of my art stuff actually lives on this cart right next to my desk, which is right here. For the sake of going through this all though, I'm just going to pull mugs and we'll talk about it on the desk. To start with, Sharpies. I actually have a lot more Sharpies upstairs, but I don't tend to need them very often. I mostly just use black ones in the office, and so that's what I, for the most part, have down here. There are some other random ones in different colors, mostly neons, but other than that, for the most part, I just use black Sharpies. Then we have a cup that is sort of a mix of things. We have some markers from Char Park that have a danger flammable warning in a bunch of different colors. And then we have these lovely gel pens. These are the Zebra Sarasa Clips in 0.5. I really like these pens, and I ended up hand-picking my set at the Empire Pen Show, actually, when Zebra had a booth and I bought them through Goldspot. I can't find these open stock very often in Canada, and I knew exactly what colors I wanted, and so I just bought them open stock at the show and curated my set. I did think I got the gray, I've got the brown, and so at some point I'm gonna add the gray to my collection. My paint markers are also the home of my second favorite type of scissors. So these are the Cutter Bee scissors. I've recently become a big fan of the Tim Holtz scissors, but Cutter Bee have been my go-to scissors for a number of years. I actually own 2 pairs of these because I love them so much. I use a pair for sewing, and then I use a pair that only gets used with paper, and only clean paper. It doesn't get used with tape. It doesn't get used with anything that's sticky, just clean paper. This is the clean paper pair. I really like that they've got a cap. They're not that expensive. I think I paid, I want to say like $13 for this pair. My first pair came when I bought somebody's craft room. And so that's the other thing. I purchased somebody's craft room in early COVID. I guess just before COVID, I purchased somebody's craft room. And so some of these supplies also came from her space, and I've just sort of inherited them. These, though, are my paint pens. Most of these are mine, and I don't have many. While I do like Poscas, I'm actually a bigger fan these days of the Sharpie Creative markers, and once I run the rest of my Poscas dry, I will be replacing them with these. This Sharpie Creative marker in white is so much more white than a white Posca is, and I like the price point more. I also at one point tried the Michaels version. These were just meh. In theory, I like them. In usage, I'd much prefer I believe this is the pin type tip for a Posca. If I was going to use Posca, this is what it was going to be. But I think these are probably my last Poscas. We then have 2 sort of overflow cups. So both of these belong in other sections. These ones are the mild liner duos or mild liner mixes. They don't fit with my other mild liners. They're too large to fit in my pen tray. I also don't really like them. I find that after a while the blends sort of disappear and you're left with a pen. This one's the example. That is just one color. Even though I've stored them the way they say to store them, didn't seem to matter. This one was purple and green and is now just sort of a brownish color. Bit upsetting, but I didn't buy my set. I had it gifted to me at an event, and so it wasn't the end of the world. I tried them out. I didn't like them. Then we have the Sharpie highlighters, which are in the other half of my mild liner container. I really like these. These are the Sharpie Smear Guard highlighters, and I've actually written about these in a Gold Spot article because they're one of my favorite highlighters for fountain pens. Depending on the fountain pen ink you're using, these actually will not smudge. I found that as long as I was using something that was pretty basic, these worked. If I was using something that was sheeting or shimmering, I had a bit more of an issue, but with basic inks, I had no problem using these. And they're actually one of my top picks for an affordable highlighter for fountain pens. I think my pack of 6 cost me about $5 Canadian. In the second row, we have jelly rolls. You'll notice some are stored upside down, some are stored right way up. The upside down ones are my old set. The right side up ones are my new ones. And I find that storing old ones, especially because some of these are like 6 years old, upside down means that they seem to dry out less. I still tend to use the paper towel trick if I'm using them for long periods of time where you've got like a wet, slightly warm piece of paper towel. It works really well. They still make my favorite white gel pen. My new favorite though is this. I don't know the name of it. It's just clear glitter in a pen. It's like the Starlights, except better. I had never seen it in Canada. I got it recently and I utterly adore it. It's so much fun. I love their pens. I've religiously used them since I was in about grade 9. I don't think any of these pens go back that far anymore, but some of these sparkly ones probably go back to first year university. So they are well loved and well used. I think this is the cup that makes me look like a hoarder a little bit. This is my black pen cup, and it is just black pens in various brush tips, widths, apparently 2 more fine tip Sharpies, which do not belong here. Those go back in the Sharpie cup, and currently a Monteverde. But this is just black pens. This cup only gets black pens and is for the most part fine liners, though there are some brush pens like a Fudenosuke in here. I love having a cup that is just fine liners because it makes it really easy for me to know where they're going to be. I just have to grab from the cup, and all fine liners tend to be marked right on top, and so it's really easy to know what size I'm grabbing. This has been one of my favorite additions, was putting all my fine liners together, because it made everything so much easier to just be able to grab something and go. Going along with having a fine liner cup is my pencil cup. So this has all my pencils, mechanical pencils, various sketching pencils that I have now had since Sears in Canada closed. That's when I bought my set of Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils, like random giveaway pencils from events, all my fancy mechanical pencils. All my pencils live in the same cup. When I use a pencil, it gets returned back to the cup. I like having a system. Having a system works for me. The only pencils that do not live there are my Koh-i-Noor, Woodless, Watercolor, graphite pencils. I prefer to keep these flat in a tray. I think they break less if they're kept flat. You don't have to keep them flat. I just find it works better. Also, it helps to keep them straight because, as far as I can tell, the individual pencils are not color labeled. And so even though they do go from gray to black, there's no labeling on each pencil and they look identical in the packaging. So I keep them in the package. They go back to the same spot and everything's fine and dandy. But this is the only exception to the pencils go in the cup rule. The funniest thing about my tool cup is that my scissors do not live in the tool cup. I think the scissors should live here. I don't know why they don't, but my tool cup has rulers and the adapter for platinum pens and my Rob Penworks X-Acto and tiny eraser refills. Like, this has everything. Oh, and paper block removers, because why not? Like, the scissors should just live in here. We'll just add the scissors to that chaos, and silicone tools, because why not? I love having a catch-all cup. Also, all of these are mason jars. These are actually mason jars that I quite like now that we're canning more, and so I'm going to have to figure out a new solution, because I would like these jars back for canning. For now, though, they are holders of art supplies, and I'm just going to need to figure out a new solution for my office. But I do really like wide mouth short stubbies and tall wide mouth with straight sides. So I'm going to need to figure out a way to get these back. New storage coming this year. So I have 2 of these organizers, and it's a lot of markers. I'm going to be honest. I know that it's a lot of markers, but my Tombos I collected over about 5 or 6 years, mostly through open stock or buying whatever Michaels had on clearance. And my original set of mild liners I've now had for almost a decade, which is crazy to say. I think I've replaced about 5 from my original 15. So 10 of these are still from the original 15. Mild liners are actually the only thing that I'm a completist on. I think I've got the entire North American collection. This marker is just MIA and this marker is MIA, but I do own both of them. The other, I guess I'm completist on 2 sets of markers. The other set of markers I'm completist on are the Pentel brush sign pens, which are my favorite micro brush pen. I like them so much more than the Tombow Fudenosuke. I love the colors, and they're what I tend to use if I need a brush pen. I just love how they look. In front of them, we have the Pentel sign brush micros. I'm trying to fall in love with these. I'm not in love with them yet. They use the individual bristles, which I do really like. They're just not really my jam currently. And then we have the Pentel brush sign pen twin. I got these as PR from somebody. I don't know how I feel about them. I'm going to be real honest. They don't come numbered. It took me a day and a half to figure out what all the colors were and number them, go through all of that, and that just adds a step that I don't want to deal with. That being said, I do really like how bouncy their brush is, and I like their fine liner tip a lot more than Tombow. It's like a plastic encased fine liner tip, and I prefer that to what Tombow's got going on with their sort of very chunky bullety tip, which I never use. I only use the brush tips, and then I end up wearing out the brushes, and then I have to replace the pen because the brushes are not interchangeable. Finally, we have the Kuretake Zig Clean Color Real Brush. I think these are my favorite pen / marker for coloring with currently right now. You've probably seen them on my page in shorts. They're really nice to color with. I didn't think I was going to like them because I haven't been a fan of individual brush pen tips in the past. Turns out I was wrong, and I really like them. Is this a stupidly large marker collection? Yes. Is it built up over a series of years? Yes. Do I use everything pretty much? Yes. Is the end of my marker collection? No. So let's jump into the rest of my markers. This cup is just a little bit random. This is mostly PR samples and one-offs. Or in the case of the Eco lines, Michaels was just continuing them, and I bought a couple to see if I liked them more than Tombow's, and I didn't. Other than that, it's always just been like random stuff. So here's an Artist Loft gray pen. I could not get my preferred gray pen, which is this one, and so I tried a different one. It was the wrong shade of gray. It now lives in this cup and is only used in the most dire circumstances. This is a Faber-Castell Goldfarbe Aqua Duo Marker. I don't know why I didn't put this with my Tombows. I probably should have. And then I believe these are, yep, highlighters from Tombow. Again, mostly random PR stuff. The only exception is this Zig Wink of Stella clear brush. It lives in this cup because I don't know where else to put it. And so it lives with all the random stuff because I don't know what else to do with it. I would say the stuff in this cup is probably the stuff I use least often, but it's also the stuff that I want to know where it is when I want to use it, because I don't use it often enough for it to go in with like and like. So instead I just have a cup of that random stuff that I will only need in very specific circumstances. As odd as it sounds for this channel, this is sort of my pride and joy. You can see that a lot of these pencil crayons are a lot shorter. There are some that are all the way down in there. There's one that's all the way down there. That is for a very good reason. I started this set of Faber-Castell watercolor pencils when I was, I believe, 10, when I got my first set of 12. And since then I've added 2 more sets over the years, including this set of Art Grip Aquarelles in, I want to say 2023, which was to replace my, if I can even get it out, baby ones. What I love about Faber-Castell is that the numbering stays the same. And so the numbering on these pencils is the same as my pit markers. It's the same as any other Faber-Castell products I have. These have long been my favorite watercolor pencils. I love sketching with watercolor pencils. And as a kid, I desperately wanted more of these pencils. And I was able to acquire a student set. And then as an adult, I was able to acquire another set of my favorite ones that they made. And I'm always really grateful when I get to use them, because I've loved them for 15 years at this point. It's also a sign of how well they last that my original set is 15 years old, looks the same as a brand new set, and performs just as well as my brand new ones. So these are definitely one of my pride and joys in the office, and I love when I get to sit down and sketch with them. Frequently you will not see those sketches on this page because I tend to just do that for me, but I do utterly adore these. This is a complete set of Pitt brush pens plus some extras. I had been collecting the set in the cup for a number of years and then was gifted the box set earlier in 2025, which now means that I have everything that's currently in the lineup and some discontinued stuff. These are actually my favorite brush pen and have been for a long time because they are archival, which is rare in a marker. There aren't that many markers that are archival. Most of these are 50 to 100-year archival, and for the most part, nothing that I do is stored in direct sunlight, but there is the occasional piece that gets claimed by a family member and will then be stored in sunlight. And I do have at least one piece I have to recreate this year because I did it in Tombow marker, and then it's been living in the living room for the past couple years because Grandma really liked it. So this year will be the year that it gets redone in markers that will last. So I adore these. These are really expensive if you buy a set, less expensive if you do what I did building my original set, which was buy open stock or 6-packs and just sort of tailor the set you need. I don't know many people that actually need the full set, but I am really grateful to have the full set. Continuing on the Faber-Castell train, is it not obvious that I've loved this brand for a number of years? We have Faber-Castell Gelatos. I don't even know that they make these anymore. I bought most of mine in very early COVID, so like early 2020 / mid 2020, for like 69 cents a gelato at Michael's. This was part of their design, memory, and create line. And they're sort of like pastel sticks. They're sort of like watercolors. They were weird, but I sort of adored them. And I have a whole bunch of them because I bought them open stock. And I just sort of bought whatever colors I could get. The funny thing is, I never saw these actually on the shelves. we would go to Michael's, we wouldn't see them for weeks, and then all of a sudden there'd be a bunch in clearance. I never saw these on the shelves. I've never seen them since. I don't know that they're still around. I think they're super fun. I also have like the full shimmer neutrals collection. I need to figure out a way to incorporate them into things this year. Maybe I'll use them in my bullet journal spreads, but they are just so much fun. And they're such like an early, they sort of feel very early 2000s crafting. I think my first couple actually came from the ladies' craft room who we bought. And I just sort of went down the rabbit hole buying them. Like names like Fig and what's this? This is Boysenberry. This is Mango. This is Elderberry. This is this purple thing is Strawberry. Like, I love these things. They're such a relic of like the early 2000s. I doubt they still make them, but if you can find them, they are sort of ridiculous and sort of amazingly fun, and they fit perfectly into the Michaels pencil case boxes. And so that is what I have mine in. So that they were at one point in color order. They're not anymore. They also live on my editing desk because I love getting to look at them because they're just pretty. Finally, we have 2 more pencil products. I got my first set of the Woodless pencil crayons probably when I was in grade 8. This is my second set. They are well loved. I will say, if you write too hard with them, they do crack. This one has already been taped together once with Scotch tape. I got this set a couple of years ago. What I like about them is how long they last. Honestly, I haven't used them a lot this past year because pens and ink and watercolors, but if you want a set of pencil crayons that feel fancy, I don't know that you can get a set that feels fancier than this. What I've also loved about them is that, especially because I mostly use them at a desk, they don't break all that often. Like having one break in the entirety is great. Also, it's pure pigment, and so you're really getting your money's worth. It's sort of like using an oil pastel or a chalk pastel where that entire thing is pigment and binder. This entire thing is pigment and binder, and so unlike a lot of pencil crayons where I feel like I'm sharpening them constantly, that's never an issue with these, and I feel like I have to sharpen them really rarely. They also hold a point quite nicely, and so even if you do sharpen them, like this green one, you can see I've sharpened it, I've used it a bunch, but it's still got this very nice point at the top, which I always really appreciate in a colored pencil. I also appreciate how accurate their names are. This is called Sap Green. This is Sky Blue, Hooker's Green. So if you're from the art world, the names are quite reflective of the colors, and I really appreciate that. Underneath, we have a set that I got as a present from somebody. This is their Authentic Quality Grand Drawing Pencils. I have not even opened these. I'm very excited to at some point, though. I sort of feel like I have to wait until I have the time to actually sit down and enjoy them. Also, based on the numbers, I know that there's a whole like other set of these because this goes up to 36 and this skips 1 and 2. We skip quite a few numbers, so I know there are more of these out there. I think people don't realize how big of a fan of colored pencils I really am, but I genuinely adore colored pencils and markers. And even though I do most of my work with watercolors and with ink, I will quite happily sit down and doodle and sketch with colored pencils or markers for hours and be perfectly content. So I'm very excited to open these up, but I think I have to wait for maybe a rainy day. Maybe the next time we're snowed in, I'll open this up. But I'm very excited to open them up. They also look chunky. They sort of look like a larger version of the Aqua Grip. Like, significantly larger. So I'm excited to open them up and play with them. I would love to know down below what your favorite art supply products are. I love hearing what people are using. It's always nice to get some suggestions of new things to try. Were there any products in this video that surprised you? I think I forget how many Posca markers I still own. I keep thinking like I've run most of them dry, and I have. Like I've run half of mine dry. But there's still half of them left. And so I think it's going to be a while before I get to invest in a Sharpie set. Maybe the end of 2026. For now though, welcome to the first video of 2026, and I'll see you on Monday.